Okay, time to start with our implementation. I have created this little Trello board and I have added cards with all the sub features that we came up with in the previous episode. So today we're going to start with the activity indicator view by moving it to the in development status. For the implementation of our feature, I'm going to be using trunk-based development with short-lived feature branches. There are several advantages of implementing a feature using this strategy. One of them is that your code gets to be merged to trunk or to the main branch often, and so everybody else in your team has access to your code. Another advantage is that it makes you keep your trunk branch updated all the time, since you're always branching out from it to start a new feature. Also, by having short feature branches, you avoid big merge conflicts. So in general, it's a win-win strategy that I use all the time. So let's go ahead and create our branch out from master. There it is. Alright, so we can start with the implementation of our activity indicator view. For that, we're going to create a new group where we're going to group all the views. We're going to call it views. And we're going to create a new SwiftUI view, and we're going to name it activity indicator view. And there we can see our initiated view with the boilerplate code. SwiftUI brings a component called progress view, which, as you can see, is a spinner, and we can set its control size to large. Next, we need a way to tell the view to either display the spinner or hide it, and for that we're going to create a state object variable, and it's going to be of type activity indicator view model. So we can create our view model, which in this case is only going to have a boolean property to indicate to the view whether to hide or show the spinning indicator. So we can call it should show activity indicator. We're also going to need to make our view model conform to observable object and annotate our property as published, so that every time we change it, SwiftUI can respond to the change and redraw our view. Now our preview needs to return a view with a view model, and we can set the view model property to true, inject the view model to our view, and return our view with the injected view model. For the false case, where we should hide the activity indicator, we can create another preview, but instead set the boolean to false, and Xcode will create two different previews for those two different cases. As we can see, in both we are showing the activity indicator because we need a way to tell the view to either display it or hide it. So we could create a conditional and have our progress view inside of it. So now the true case will display the activity indicator, and the false case will display an empty view. As you can see, we have not created any unit tests for these cases because the logic here is so simple that I'm happy just having the previews. Now we can move our view model to its own file. Run the tests to check that everything's still working. And it is. Now it's time to commit our changes. So implementing activity indicator view with its view model. We're gonna push our branch, and now it's time to create our pull request. So if we go to the repository in GitHub, we can create a new pull request. The title is gonna be activity indicator view implementation. It's always nice to have a good description to let our reviewers know what exactly they're going to be reviewing. And then it's also nice to have some details. So for example, we can say that we implemented a progress view component which reads from the view model should display activity indicator property in order to display or hide the spinner. And then also it's nice to have a diagram of the architecture that we implemented. And then we have our description, details, and the architecture. But before we create our pull request, it is very important to double check the code that you pushed. It's very common to find little bugs by checking your own code before assigning it to your teammates to review. So we have the activity indicator view. We have two previews for the true and false cases, and we have our very simple activity indicator view model. If we are sure that everything's fine, we can go ahead and create our pull request and wait for any of our teammates to review it. So now we can go ahead and move our card in Trello to the done section. And we are done with the first sub feature. Key points to take from this video: feature branches should be as short-lived as possible in order to always have your code merged to the main branch. This will also bring you the benefit that pull requests will be short and easy to review, making them less likely to have errors. Also, they become easier to come up with a short and precise description, and having a way to display the architecture you're intending to implement helps the reviewer to understand your implementation. Another important aspect of having features broke down into sub-features like we did is that you can show the progress to the management. Now the project manager can see that the main feature was already started and that one of its sub-parts has been already completed. See you in the next one for the implementation of the error view.